hard to say, when people say pound for pound, words like that confuse me a lot. And it's really, really hard when people come up with lists. When you try to come up with a list, what happens is, it's basically what you think of. Okay, well, we'll use MMA as an example because that's what we're going to get into. If I make a list about mixed martial arts fighters and who I like the best, that depends entirely upon my opinion and my observations of what I've seen them do in the cage, in and out of the cage on YouTube, Twitter, whatever. Some interactions I may have had with some fighters, and they might play play to my favorite side because that's my fucking opinion. But the UFC, I said this a long time ago. I said it not that long ago, and I'll say it again. Has no business making a top 10 list for every single weight class. I don't know where someone would come up with the balls to say we have. See how many weight classes are there? There's 125, there's 135, there's 145, 55, 70, 85. Fuck's that 85, 205 and heavyweight, 8 weight classes. So we have 80. I'm sorry, there's 11 people. So we have 90 of the best fighters on the planet. Period. And you can't say shit about it. Bellator. You can't say anything. Are you sure there's not anyone out there better than anyone that's on your top 10? Are you sure that you have all the top 10 fighters in the world? How can you possibly be sure? But they have managed to compile the top 5 fights thus far of 2013. And for some reason, it makes my fucking head hurt. They have Dennis Bermudez versus Matt Grice as number 1. Number 2 is Johnny Hendricks and Carlos Condit. That fight saved UFC 150. Hey, I'm telling you, I was about to get nasty. I mean, they're trying to put Mike Ricci out there like he's something, and he ain't. And he just, I can't stand that dude. I can't stand watching him fight. Now, if you can't stand to watch a man take his hand and try to beat someone up, that's not a boring thing. But if you can't stand the sight of it, you're a boring motherfucker, man. So, I mean, again, completely opinionated, but how else are you going to make a list, right? They call it official. So, since they have the power to call it official, that means I have the power to call it official. So, it's official. Anyway, Vanderlei Silva versus Brian Stann. Brian Stann was a heavy favorite going in, but what we learned after going to Brazil 1, 2, 3, 4 times is Brazilians win in Brazil, period. Vanderlei Silva, TKO. Win over Brian Stann. Kat Zingano versus Miesha Tate. Haven't got a chance to watch that. I did miss the fight initially. I watched like little clips of it, highlights. It looked like Miesha came out pressing the action, and gas ran out. That's what it looked like to me. UFC 162, I don't really want to talk about it because it's so dated. It's Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman. Everyone thinks Chris Weidman. He reminds me of a young John Jones mixed with a George St. Pierre. That's what he, that's what he looks like anyway. The way that he stifled, completely shut Mark Munoz down. He couldn't do anything. He never got one shot off. Mark Munoz never pumped a jab. He never had any time. He never had room to breathe. He was smothered by Chris Weidman. It was a spectacular performance. And even better was the standing guillotine that he dragged Jesse Bonfelt the entire way across the octagon with. This guy's finishing people. He's knocking people while he's submitting people. The Alessio Sakara fight was one of the bloodiest fights I've ever seen in my life, and didn't seem to bother, for being his first fight in the UFC. Didn't bother him at all. Who else put to sleep? One of my other favorites, Tom Lawler. Put him to sleep with, I believe, a Darce choke. He's nasty, man. He's nasty, but don't get sucked into the hype. Let's not get sucked into the hype. As what they say every time. Anderson Silva hasn't had a very formidable opponent in a long time. Chris Weidman is that man. I'll give him that much. We all know when Silva literally runs right through Chris Weidman, we're all going to go, wow, he did it again. He is the best in the world. And what's he on, like a 19-fight win streak, 15, 16, something like that? We've said it 14 or 15 times. Wow, he did it again. I really thought, that guy had his number. Yeah. No, we're being dumb. We're being played. Chris Weidman has 9 pro fights. 9 pro fights. Sure, he's a fucking machine. Absolutely. But Anderson Silva is too. More so. More experienced. More well-rounded. Faster. And he's a champion. You know what I mean? I mean, this guy's only 2-1. I haven't seen a 2-1 in a long time. People are at least 3.5, 4-1 against Silva. It's plus 200. My pick is absolutely Anderson Silva. He'll get it done within the first 3 rounds. He won't even need the championship rounds. I see TKO happening. We could have a bunch of hype behind this guy, but I could be completely wrong. We could have a new champion. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers here that I'm not, fucking shit up. At 163 was supposed to be Jose Aldo versus the most fucked over fighter ever, Anthony Showtime Pettis, and he earned that spot for sure with the knockout of Donald Cerrone. He earned that shot. He earned the shot a long time ago, and then he lost to Clay Guida, and he fucking lost it, and he earns the shot again. And he gets fucking hurt, so now he's out, and the Korean Zombie's in. The Korean Zombie is a huge underdog set. I think Chan Sung Jung is, let me check. I think it's plus 400 or something, which means he's like a 4-1 underdog. And I think Jose Aldo is a 7-1 favorite. Yeah, 7-1 favorite to defeat the Korean Zombie. He is. He's a 7.5-1 favorite, and Chan Sung Jung's a 4.5-1 underdog. My pick for that fight is Chan Sung Jung. I think the Korean Zombie's going to take it. He looks better every time. His submission game's mean. He can strike. He can wrestle. But his grappling is just off the hook. What we saw with Dustin Poirier, and he was also a huge underdog in that too, 3.5-1 or some shit like that, almost 4-1. That Dustin his diamond was shining bright until he met up with the Korean Zombie. And I think that if that fight happened in 2013, 2012, I think 2012, one of the greatest fights I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, one of the greatest mixed martial arts fights I've ever seen in my life. At UFC 163, we have 2 huge heavy favorites. One, I told you, being Aldo, but Lyoto Machida facing Phil Davis. Lyoto Machida is almost a 5-1, favorite to be Phil Davis. Phil Davis is a 3-1 underdog. So just 2 enormous favorites going into UFC 153. My pick is definitely the Korean Zombie. Yeah, he's been calling Jose Aldo out for a long time. He defeated Poirier in devastating fashion. Yeah, it's well deserved. I think he can take it. I think he can do it if he really wants to. And I don't think he would put himself out there quite as much as he has and been so vocal about fighting Aldo if he didn't think he could beat Aldo. I think he really learned from that Leonard Garcia fight, that first one that was on WEC pay-per-view. I think he really learned from that it's okay. Takedowns are okay. Submissions are okay. You can grapple too. Still exciting. It's mixed martial arts. You don't have to. It doesn't always have to be rock and sock and robots. Right? So I'm confused about Anthony Pettis. I know he's out 6 weeks. I'm not sure if is he competing at 145 or 155 because he's talking a bunch of shit on lightweights and a bunch of shit on featherweights too. So it throws me off. I just really, especially Nate Diaz, and me being a huge fucking fan of Nate and Nick Diaz. To Pettis, I'm a huge Pettis fan too. But fuck you, man. Really? I mean, you're like a Frankie Edgar type of situation. You're in 2 different weight fucking classes. You don't know which one you quite fucking belong in, and you can't win a title in either one. So that's what I would say if I was angry. That's the first thought that goes through my head. You're on a 3-fight losing streak. You're fighting Charles Oliveira, who has never cracked the top 10 in the UFC. And believe me, they're right. They have to be. It's the UFC. Yeah, the Korean Zombie's a complete fighter. He gets better every single time, especially with the submissions. His Darce chokes, they're so slick, they come out of nowhere. He was originally out of Korean top team. Now he has opened his own gym, hired his own staff of coaches. Some came over from the Korean top team to be with him for this fight. I think he'll be well prepared. I think he'll be well trained. And my pick for UFC 163, Aldo versus Jung, is Chan Sung Jung. And of course, 162, you got to go with Anderson Silva over Chris Weidman. However, I hope I'm wrong.